Hello crafty friends, my name's Alicia, but you can call me Crafty Al, and welcome to my video for the June 2025 Oh So Inspired Collaboration Hop. I hope you'll stick around to see what I was inspired to create, including a DIY foiled sentiment. Welcome, or perhaps welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new to my channel, each month I host the Oh So Inspired Collaboration Hop. It's when myself and a team of other creative makers get together to take inspiration from something and make it our own. Some of us might use the color palette from the inspiration piece, maybe the layout, maybe the theme. We can do whatever we want as long as it was inspired by that original piece that we chose. Now I know after seeing my video, you're going to want to check out everyone else's, so you'll want to click on the playlist that is linked at the top of the description box below and also as an end card at the end of the video. This month, each of us is taking inspiration from fellow team member Amalia, who shares here on YouTube on the Cool Cakes and Crafts with Amalia channel, and over on Instagram as @CoolCakesAndCrafts. For my project, I chose the card that you see up on screen now, and I do have a direct link to this down in that description box below. What drew me in was that fun background that she created with washi tape and how she has stenciling around her sentiment. And speaking of sentiment, that is what you have seen me work on so far. I did really love the stamp or whatever she used, and I went over to Creative Fabrica to see if I could find a neat "You're Awesome" art to use for mine. Well, you guys, I found the exact sentiment. So perhaps hers wasn't a stamp, perhaps she has a Creative Fabrica subscription too. Once I had that SVG downloaded, I took it into Illustrator on my computer, I sized it to what I was going to want it for my final piece, and then I created an offset, and later you'll see why I did this. I printed the sentiments onto white cardstock, and then using my mini Mink and deco foil in Plum, I added a little shine. To do my stenciling around the sentiment, I chose the Here Comes the Sun stencil from Tailored Expressions, and I will be using Plum Punch ink. The reason I chose that color is it's pretty close to the foil that I just used, and there's also different shades of purple in my pattern paper. Just like on the original card, I didn't want any stenciling over the sentiment itself, and because my stencil does have open areas there in the center, I created a mask. So I used a roll of masking tape that I have here in my stash and that offset path that I created earlier, and I cut 4 of these out on my silhouette. Now when I remove that, because that masking paper is nice and thin, I do my best to center it around there, get a nice even border, and when I hold it up to the light, I can see where the actual sentiment is. This is going to ensure that I get color around my sentiment, but not exactly where the foil is. For the stenciling, I want it to look like the rays are radiating out from the middle of the sentiment. So I'm going to place the circle of the stencil right there in the middle. Once I have that taped in place, I'm going to use that Plum Punch ink and a purple blending brush to add the color. I started by doing circles right from that center out, and then when I had some color on all of the open areas, I went back in and did some more concentrated ink blending right around the edge of where the masking paper was. And now here's the big reveal. It adds so much color, yet that sentiment still stands out because I had the mask in place. To easily build my background, I cut a piece of printer paper to 5.5 by 4.25, and now I'm going to be putting a Tailored Expressions sticky sheet on top of that. This is a double-sided adhesive sheet, and these are already cut to the size of an A2 card base. The background of the original card was made with pieces of washi tape, but I decided that I wanted to try it with pattern paper. So I got out this beautiful pad from Craft Consortium, Ink Drops Candy, and I chose one of the pieces. Now to make my strips, I'm going to cut this down into 6 pieces that are 1 inch wide and then leave the height at 6 inches. Now when I get here to the end of the piece of pattern paper, because my fingers won't fit under the cut bar, I held it in place temporarily with a piece of Scotch removable tape so that I could have 6 final pieces. On the original card, Amalia left some white space between each of her strips of washi tape. I wanted to do the same, but I wanted to bring in a little more of the purple color. So I got a scrap of Plum Punch cardstock and I cut it into strips that were 1/8 of an inch wide. I wasn't sure how many of these I would need, so I cut a total of 8, and then from the piece that was left over, I cut a 3-inch square mat for that foiled sentiment piece. To mimic the effect of the original card where she used various washi's, I didn't want the pattern to flow on the background. I wanted it to look a little different. So I took every other strip of pattern paper and rotated it 180 degrees. Now it's time to build that background. So I brought back in my sticky printer paper and I revealed about half of that. I put down the first strip of pattern paper at an angle where that would fill it from top to bottom, and once that was in place, I brought in 2 of my Plum Punch strips and put 1 on either side. Now you do want to make sure on all of these that everything is nice right up against each other, so take your time, especially on this first one. Once those pieces were in place, I grabbed the next strip of pattern paper and laid that to the right side. And then I just repeated this same pattern, remembering to put my Plum Punch strip in between. Now before I do that final little section over in the top right hand corner, I want to go ahead and use the last strip over to the left of the first one that I just placed. That way, after that one is in place with the Plum Punch strip, I can go ahead and use that last one on each of the corners. Now for this one, I did have to place 1/2 of it over on the right side, cut off that excess, and place the remaining scrap over in the bottom left. At this point, I could have just trimmed off the excess, but I did want a small white border on my card front, so I brought in my Hero Arts Infinity dies, and using the second from the largest, I cut this piece down. Now that all of the pieces are ready, it's time to put this card together. I got a white card base from my stash, and then I added that Plum Punch cardstock mat to the back of the foiled piece. Next, I added adhesive to our strippy background, and then before I place this onto the card front, I played around with the orientation with the sentiment to figure out how I wanted that to lay. And I decided that I wanted the purple part in the top left of the card base, so I got that adhered down, trying to get a nice white even border all the way around. Since the card was pretty flat so far, I wanted to add a little dimension, so I brought in my big blue roll of foam tape and added some strips to the back of the sentiment so I could pop this up off the card. Now before I place this onto the card front, I did add some liquid glue to the back of the foam tape so that I would have a little bit of wiggle time to get it adjusted just right. To finish the card off and add a little more sparkle, I brought in some purple gems and scattered those from the top left to the bottom right. And here are some close-up looks at the finished card. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I was inspired to create today's card. If you did, as always, a thumbs up is appreciated. Now don't forget to go see what the rest of the team created by using the link in the description box below or the end card here in just a minute. Until my next video, I hope you're all having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope now you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above. And if you are interested in any of the products or tools I used in today's video, I do have some links in the description box below.